Do me a favour in layman's terms. What sort of message does that send to the public that you can deface property and get away with it if you use the excuse that it's part of some political movement? That can't be right, can it, sir?
It sends a lovely message that nothing has changed, that you, the jury, can listen to the evidence, you can listen to the judge's directions, and you can actually come to your own view.
You mean it was the right decision?
I mean, it was proper that they made their decision, and it's beyond criticism. The judge obviously knew there was a defence.
But how can it, Michael, with the greatest of respect, how can it be on criticism? I spoke to somebody yesterday who said, and I quote, that's the British legal system. And this is what I really want to ask you. That's the British legal system at its best with a jury. Surely you, as a defence barrister, would admit that that jury have been absolutely not forced into this, but I would say coerced through the media into this because of what was written about the case and known about Black Lives Matter. They broke the law, Michael.
Well, they didn't break the law because there's no convictions. They were acquitted. It's not a difficult problem. The judge decided that there was a defence to be left to them. Funnily enough, he allowed them to come back with a verdict of guilty or not guilty. It's really curious to hear people complaining that they chose one of the options available to them.
Do you think that if 4 people had torn down Winston Churchill's statue, or do you think if 4 people came into the News International building and pulled down a monument of whatever in the front, if they weren't to do with a political movement and they were prosecuted? I'm asking you, I know you're a QC and I'm not defaming in any way the importance of a jury system. I completely agree with you and I absolutely do. But what I'm saying is, do you not think that those people would have been found guilty? Because I'm absolutely sure they would have been.
Well, you can't be absolutely sure. It depends who's on the jury and how up to date they are and whether they feel bowed by comments made, say, by the Home Secretary in advance of this trial, very helpfully saying it's an absolute disgrace.
Do you not think it's an absolute disgrace?
No, not in the slightest.
I'm not talking about Edward Colston, by the way. I think we all absolutely agree that what that man stood for. I find it ironic, I said yesterday, that the Colston Hall in Bristol is still up and standing. And I'm not advocating anybody goes and tears down the Colston Hall, but surely his name should have been removed by now. I think it's a bigger argument, though, isn't it? It's not about the rights and wrongs of what they were objecting to. It's the criminal act, Michael, isn't it?
But it's not a criminal act, because they presented a defence that said in these circumstances they were allowed to do it, just in the same way as I represented the Greenpeace protesters who abseiled down King's North Tower and daubed on it, again accused of criminal offences and found not to have done so.
You frown at me as if I know nothing about the world, so let me throw a text at you from a listener. He says, let's say Black Lives Matter's protest killed a police officer. Let's say this happened and the jury found them not guilty, even though it was caught on video. The members of the jury should be prosecuted for perverting the court of justice. That's Richard in Truro. You're the expert. Answer Richard in Truro, Michael.
Sorry, Richard, you've got it completely wrong.
Why?
Because I don't understand what on earth he's saying. The idea that jurors would acquit someone in those circumstances because they happen.
Do you think they're acquitted? That's a very good point, actually. Do you think that the jury yesterday acquitted these 4 you won't allow me to call them criminals, but defendants then, who tore down this statue and that's against the law? Do you think that they were acquitted, Michael, because of the fact that it was of such public interest and it was so high profile? You won't answer. I get it why. I understand your respect for the legal system. I have it too. If they'd torn down something that wasn't to do with, say, slave trade, would they in fact have been acquitted? Possibly not. You must allude to that.
Well, not if there's a group of them going out having a good time discussing their politics and happen to tear something down. I wouldn't expect they would be acquitted. But any jury has the freedom to give the verdict that they think is right. It would be absurd if they had to run their thinking by columnists and politicians or disappointed Tories or even disappointed media presenters. Of course, if it's left to them, they've got a choice.
What did you say? A disappointed what? A disappointed what?
I don't know. There was a whole long list of you. There could be disappointed politicians. There could be disappointed media presenters. Who knows?
I'm not disappointed. I just wonder whether I absolutely agree with you about the fabric of the British legal system. I just worry that those jurors might well have been affected by the noise actually around the story. This is from Ian. Colston statue verdict only serves to prove how the fabric of this country has collapsed. I would suggest that this jury consisted of every woke left-wing human being that's left in this country. What would you say to that, Michael?
Well, he makes that finding because of the definition, because of the verdict, I mean.
Were you surprised by the verdict, Michael?
No.
You weren't. You expected that answer, did you?
I didn't think about it in advance, but it doesn't surprise me. It certainly doesn't amaze me, astonish me, anything like that.
And go on, sorry.
I once heard a member of the public gallery shout out, "Thank God for a British jury," and I hated it, cliche, but it was in the circumstances that a man was effectively forced to change his plea to guilty to manslaughter, and the judge said he had no defence. The jury wouldn't accept it. And so despite his pleading guilty in front of them, they repeatedly acquitted him. And it was a fabulous example of the jury's independence.
Okay, Michael Wilkine, QC, thank you very much indeed.